It was the kind of news that seemed to come out of nowhere, catching industry insiders and car buyers alike by complete surprise. Just a minute ago, both Chevy and GM made an unprecedented move. They've announced they are ditching all dealerships. This decision marks a massive shift in the world of automotive sales, a change that could completely upend how cars are bought and sold in the coming years. This isn't just a minor adjustment or a limited time experiment. GM and Chevy are signaling the end of the traditional dealership model and a full-on push toward direct sales. It's a monumental move that raises some serious questions about the future of the car industry. Could this be the beginning of the end for the dealership model that's existed for over a century? What does this mean for the thousands of dealerships that have relied on GM and Chevy for their livelihoods? And perhaps most importantly, how will the consumers react to this sweeping change? Let's take a closer look at how and why this move was made, and why both companies have suddenly decided to pull the plug on their dealer networks. The decision, why now? To understand the shocking decision Chevy and GM have made, we first need to look at what's been happening in the automotive industry over the last few years. Traditional car buying has always been a bit of a chore, long waiting times, back and forth negotiations, and dealers with limited inventory. With the rise of the internet, online shopping, and the convenience of e-commerce, customers are now demanding a more streamlined experience. In fact, the demand for online car buying platforms has never been higher. Consumers are looking for ways to buy vehicles with as little hassle as possible. GM and Chevy have likely been watching the rise of Tesla's direct-to-consumer model with great interest. Tesla's success in selling cars without relying on third-party dealers is a model that's gaining ground in the market, with more and more automakers taking notice. Another factor that likely influenced GM and Chevy's decision is the growing emphasis on electric vehicles, EVs. The shift toward EVs requires a complete rethinking of how cars are sold. These new vehicles often have fewer moving parts and require less traditional maintenance. With fewer service needs, the role of the local dealership is dramatically reduced. As a result, direct sales could streamline the process, especially as these companies focus on EV production. And let's not forget the impact of consumer preferences. Younger buyers, particularly millennials and Gen Z, are more tech-savvy and less inclined to engage in lengthy dealership transactions. Many of these consumers prefer the simplicity of online transactions and the convenience of having their vehicles delivered right to their doorstep. But why did this happen now? It seems that Chevy and GM are positioning themselves for the future. As the automotive industry undergoes a transformation driven by both technology and changing customer expectations, these companies see the traditional dealership model as something of a roadblock, and in their eyes, eliminating the middleman is the best path forward. The dealer fallout. As with any major shakeup, the repercussions of Chevy and GM's announcement are felt far beyond just the corporate boardrooms. The impact on the dealership network is immediate and profound. For decades, dealerships have been the lifeblood of the automotive industry, responsible for not only selling vehicles, but also offering service, maintenance, and fostering community relationships with customers. Now, with Chevy and GM eliminating dealerships from their model, the future of these businesses is up in the air. Thousands of franchise dealerships that have built their reputation and profits on selling GM and Chevy cars are facing an uncertain future. What happens to the employees, the salespeople, and the service technicians who rely on these brands for their livelihood? While the move could be seen as an opportunity to innovate and streamline, it also represents a blow to the dealer community. Dealerships will no longer be able to rely on GM and Chevy's high-volume car sales, and their future success will depend on how quickly they can adapt. Some may pivot to servicing electric vehicles from other manufacturers, while others may find new opportunities by focusing on used car sales or becoming a third-party service centers. The suddenness of this change leaves little room for preparation. Longtime dealership owners may struggle to adjust to the new business model, and many are already voicing their concerns. Some argue that the transition to direct sales could jeopardize the personal touch that many buyers still crave when making a significant investment like purchasing a car. But will online platforms and direct sales be able to fill that gap? Only time will tell. What does this mean for consumers? While the announcement has clearly caused a stir in the dealer community, the big question is, how will the consumers react to this new way of buying cars? On the surface, it seems like a win for convenience. The promise of a hassle-free car buying experience directly from the manufacturers could be a game changer for many. No more pushy salespeople, no more long hours at the dealership, and no more negotiations. With GM and Chevy moving to a direct-to-consumer model, the buying process will likely become much more streamlined. Consumers will be able to purchase vehicles online, selecting from a broader inventory, and have their car delivered right to their door. They can configure their car the way they want it, view detailed specifications and pricing, and even arrange financing, all from the comfort of their home. But while some might welcome the ease of online car shopping, others might feel that this change leaves something behind. The traditional dealer experience has always been about more than just the sale. It's also about forming relationships with knowledgeable staff and test driving cars, and having the option for in-person consultations. Will these interactions be sacrificed for the sake of convenience? Moreover, without dealers, maintenance and repairs could take on a very different dynamic. Service may now be handled through dedicated centers, perhaps run directly by GM and Chevy or through a network of authorized partners. Will this lead to more standardized and potentially cheaper services? Or will it create new barriers for customers needing timely repairs? These are the kinds of questions that will shape the consumer experience in the coming years. While the prospect of online buying may seem attractive, only time will tell if this new approach will truly deliver on its promises. This isn't just about making headlines, it's about the future of the automotive industry. As we dig deeper into the GM and Chevy strategy, there's one thing becoming clear: their moves aren't just reactions to market pressures. They're laying the groundwork for the future of transportation. GM and Chevy's bold decision to rethink their dealership relationships is all part of a larger vision, one that is laser focused on the world of electric vehicles. So let's break this down. The electric revolution. GM's EV investment plan. From the moment GM unveiled their ambitious plan to go all electric by 2035, things started to shift. This wasn't just an announcement, it was a declaration of intent. As part of their push into EVs, GM is investing heavily into both their EV manufacturing capabilities and their sales strategy. But here's the catch: a traditional dealership model simply doesn't align with the needs of the new era of electric vehicles. It's no secret that dealerships were designed around gas-powered cars. There was a focus on test drives, immediate sales, and traditional car maintenance. But EVs require a different approach, particularly when it comes to sales, servicing, and infrastructure. The tech-heavy nature of electric vehicles means that dealerships need to offer specialized services, not just to sell cars, but to support their future needs. GM's decision to pull back from reliance on a massive network of independently owned dealers is partly about having more control over the customer experience. GM wants to steer clear of any missteps. You can't afford those when introducing an entirely new product line. Think about it. With electric vehicles, the buying process is often more about understanding complex technology than just driving a car off the lot. EVs require expertise in battery management, charging solutions, and energy efficiency. Unlike traditional combustion engines, where service tends to be routine and predictable, EV maintenance is quite different. Many dealerships simply don't have the infrastructure or training to properly support these emerging technologies. GM's investment strategy doesn't just stop at making cars, it's an entire overhaul of their approach to mobility. With electric vehicles, GM is betting on a future where customers won't just need cars, but they'll need a new kind of dealership relationship, one that isn't centered on the standard sales model, but instead on a deeper understanding of technology, sustainability, and convenience. The role of dealerships in GM's new strategy. GM's decision to rethink its dealer network didn't come overnight. The shift is part of a broader strategy that focuses on integrating new technologies into the entire experience. Dealers were initially seen as essential to GM's growth, but now, with the introduction of electric vehicles, this has become less of a necessity. Take a look at the difference in how electric vehicles are bought and sold. Unlike traditional gas-powered cars, EVs require specialized knowledge in battery technology, range capabilities, and charging infrastructure. And let's face it, many traditional car salespeople don't have the training needed to answer in-depth questions about these highly complex systems. It's here that GM sees a gap in the traditional dealership model. Dealerships aren't necessarily prepared to handle the technological demands that electric vehicles bring to the table. So rather than rely on a bloated network of dealers who may not have the tools or expertise, GM is working toward a model that embraces the digital and technological future of the auto industry. What that looks like is a transition toward fewer but more specialized dealers who are well equipped to cater to the needs of electric vehicles. This might include showrooms that double as service centers, where customers can experience the vehicle firsthand while also learning about its technology in an environment that fosters deeper understanding. GM is also investing heavily in remote diagnostics, where a customer could essentially manage much of their car's needs from the palm of their hand. No dealer required. But that's not all. GM is also revamping its marketing strategy to push the concept of at-home sales. Imagine browsing the latest GM models online, doing an interactive virtual tour, and even finalizing your purchase all from the comfort of your home. Dealerships still play a role, but it's becoming less about just showing up at a location and more about streamlining the entire car buying process. This new approach might be unsettling to some, but it's undeniably part of GM's effort to stay ahead of the curve. This isn't just a reaction to an industry shift, it's a proactive rethinking of what a dealership could be. GM's strategy is clear: adapt to the changing market and create a sustainable, future-ready model. Buyouts and buy-in. The dealership shakeup. Let's talk numbers. In the face of massive restructuring, GM is offering buyouts to dealerships that may not have the resources to keep up with the shifting demands of the automotive industry. Notably, almost half of Buick's dealerships took the buyout in the past year rather than invest in the massive changes necessary to sell electric vehicles. It's a tough pill to swallow for some dealers, especially those who have been in the business for decades, but it's also a sign of the times. While this might look like GM is abandoning the traditional dealership model, it's actually more of a pruning process. GM is reducing the number of dealerships, focusing instead on a network of more specialized locations that can handle the unique demands of selling and maintaining electric vehicles. The reality is, GM and Chevy are being strategic. The company's future plans hinge on reaching customers in new ways, and traditional dealerships simply weren't equipped to meet those goals. It's not that GM and Chevy are abandoning dealerships altogether, but they're moving away from the traditional one-size-fits-all approach. But there are risks involved in this shift. By reducing the number of dealerships, GM is betting that it can manage customer relations and service in a more direct manner. This could mean a more intimate connection between the consumer and the manufacturer. However, the challenge is maintaining a high level of customer service without the local presence that many people have come to expect from dealerships. GM must strike the right balance between accessibility and exclusivity. It's important to note that not all dealers are accepting the buyout offer. Some of them are doubling down on their investments, seeing the electric vehicle shift as an opportunity to diversify their business. These dealers are taking on new training, investing in charging infrastructure, and preparing to become the go-to experts for the new wave of EVs. This creates a bit of a divide in the dealership community: those who embrace change and those who feel they're being left behind. The future of sales and service. A new era for consumers. It's easy to paint this as a bold, possibly risky move, but when we look at the larger picture, it's not all that surprising. GM has been increasingly integrating technology into their vehicles, and the dealership experience must follow suit. In fact, GM has already started piloting new, tech-driven sales methods where customers can buy vehicles online and pick them up from designated centers. Think of it as a streamlined version of the traditional dealership experience, only with more of a focus on online shopping and less pressure to make snap decisions. As the shift toward EVs picks up speed, GM will likely expand these new methods, pushing even further into digital-first sales. This approach would help GM reach a broader customer base, bypassing the geographical restrictions and challenges of traditional dealerships. This is where we start to see GM's true strategy emerge. As the market for electric vehicles grows, the need for specialized service and sales centers grows with it. Chevy and GM are positioning themselves to lead the charge, with a focus on quality, convenience, and customer experience, areas where traditional dealerships were often lacking. By getting rid of unnecessary middlemen, GM can directly control how its vehicles are marketed, sold, and serviced, ultimately benefiting consumers who want a more seamless, tech-driven, and direct car buying experience. What GM is doing is innovative, but it's also necessary. The automotive industry is on the brink of a massive transformation, and GM is positioning itself to stay ahead of the curve. What GM and Chevy are doing isn't just significant for their own operations, it's poised to have a massive impact on the entire automotive industry. As the giants of the industry push forward with radical shifts in their dealership models and embrace the electric future, others will have to follow suit or risk being left behind. The next few years could see a total transformation of how cars are sold, maintained, and understood by consumers. The domino effect, how other car makers might respond. While GM and Chevy are leading the charge, their move is sure to set off a chain reaction among other automakers. Every major manufacturer from Ford to Toyota will be watching closely to see how GM handles this drastic shift. The move is bold, and it's likely that others will either mimic it or adjust their own strategies based on how well GM's new approach works. We've already seen similar moves from Tesla, which disrupted the traditional dealership model from the very beginning. Tesla's direct-to-consumer sales model has proven successful for years, but Tesla operates in a unique niche with its luxury electric vehicles. Now, GM is doing something similar but on a far larger scale, with a focus on mass-market electric cars that could appeal to a broader demographic. Ford, too, has been making significant investments into its EV future. The Mustang Mach-E and the electric F-150 Lightning are prime examples of Ford's pivot toward electric vehicles, but their dealer network remains largely intact. It's unclear if Ford will follow GM's example and begin reshaping its dealer relationships, but with the EV market growing at an exponential rate, they may eventually have no choice. Toyota, a leader in hybrid technology, has been slow to embrace full electrification, but their efforts to introduce electric models like the BZ4X show a clear desire to stay competitive. The question is, how will they deal with the shift in the dealership model? Will they continue with their traditional dealership structure, or will they explore something more streamlined like GM? One thing is for sure, Toyota is watching closely. As GM pushes forward, its success will be closely scrutinized, and the industry will inevitably start adjusting based on what works. This could result in the next major shift in how cars are bought and sold, not just in North America, but across the globe. Consumer reactions. What will buyers think? The impact of GM's and Chevy's shift won't just be felt within the industry, it will affect the customers directly. Buyers have long had relationships with dealerships, and for many, it's been the standard way of purchasing a vehicle. The idea of a new model, where buying a car might be more digital and direct, could be an exciting or daunting prospect for consumers. What will this mean for the customer experience? On one hand, customers may embrace the convenience of purchasing a car entirely online or through a more streamlined process. The new way of purchasing could make it easier to compare different vehicles, explore financing options, and learn about features without the traditional back and forth in the showroom. Online tools that allow customers to configure their vehicles and learn about their features at their own pace could become the norm. On the other hand, some consumers may resist these changes. For many people, visiting a dealership has been a key part of the car buying experience. It's a place to see the car in person, take it for a test drive, and ask questions. For those who value face-to-face interactions and want to feel the product before making a decision, GM's move to reduce the number of dealerships might seem a bit cold. The key to GM's success will be how well they balance the human side of car buying with the new digital-first model. For some, the personal touch of a dealer might still be important, and GM will need to ensure that even with fewer showrooms, they maintain an intimate, personal connection with customers. Additionally, while digital and online purchases offer more convenience, they also come with challenges. What happens if something goes wrong with the car soon after purchase? Customers who've bought vehicles online may find it more challenging to access quick service or follow-up care, especially if local service centers aren't as accessible as they were before. Ultimately, the move towards a more digital model will be met with mixed emotions from consumers. The key to success for GM will be how they build trust and ensure their customers feel supported, whether they purchase online, at a center, or through a smaller showroom. The changing face of the dealership, service centers, and showrooms. The dealership experience as we know it is changing, but don't think that dealerships will disappear entirely. Instead, what GM is doing is pushing for a more specialized, service-oriented approach to the business. The future of car dealerships might not revolve around big showrooms with rows of cars. Instead, they might be more focused on customer support, car servicing, and education. Service centers will take on a much larger role in GM's future strategy. Rather than being solely places to handle repairs and maintenance, these service centers could serve as hubs for customer education, vehicle updates, and even hands-on workshops. Imagine a space where you can not only get your EV repaired, but also learn more about its technology, how to maximize its battery life, and understand its unique features. The showroom experience too might look very different. Instead of massive lots full of cars, showrooms might become places to display the technology behind the vehicles. Customers could interact with interactive displays and experience the electric features of the car before making a decision. Rather than a place to close the deal, showrooms might transform into spaces for product education and discovery, all while offering a personal touch through guided experiences. One potential outcome of this model is the rise of a more intimate, boutique-style dealership. Think of it as a cross between a technology showroom and a service center, where the focus is on education and personalized service. With fewer locations but more investment in each one, GM will need to ensure that the customer experience is consistently high, regardless of whether a customer is shopping online or visiting a showroom. Environmental impact and the EV future. As GM's strategy begins to take shape, the broader implications for the environment are becoming increasingly clear. GM's commitment to transitioning to an all-electric fleet by 2035 is a bold move that signals the company's dedication to sustainability. But this isn't just about selling cars, it's about driving change on a global scale. The shift away from traditional gasoline-powered cars is an important step in reducing carbon emissions and fighting climate change. By promoting electric vehicles and phasing out combustion engines, GM is helping to push the automotive industry toward a more sustainable future. However, the transition to EVs is complex, and it will require large-scale investments in infrastructure, such as charging stations and renewable energy sources. The environmental impact of GM's decisions extends beyond the cars themselves. By reducing the number of traditional dealerships and shifting toward more sustainable, tech-driven business models, GM is also signaling a shift toward a greener, more eco-conscious way of doing business. Whether it's the reduction in resource consumption from fewer large-scale dealerships or the long-term benefits of EV adoption, GM's plans could have far-reaching positive effects on the environment. As GM pushes ahead with its bold new direction, there's no denying the challenges that lie ahead. Transitioning from a century-old business model that revolves around traditional dealerships to one that is focused more on digital interactions and direct-to-consumer sales is a massive undertaking, and while the rewards could be tremendous, the obstacles in the way are equally substantial. Navigating the roadblocks, challenges to overcome. As GM moves toward a more digitized and streamlined business model, the road ahead is far from smooth. This shift comes with multiple challenges, and GM will need to be prepared to overcome each one as it strives to reshape the industry. The first significant hurdle they will face is the issue of legacy. The traditional dealership network has been a cornerstone of the auto industry for decades, and changing this fundamental structure will not be easy. Many of GM's own dealerships will feel the pressure as the company reduces its reliance on physical showrooms. For dealerships, the financial strain is undeniable. The once lucrative nature of selling cars in a traditional setting is rapidly shifting to a more digital environment where margins can be tighter and customer foot traffic can diminish. This could lead to resistance from smaller, independent dealerships that rely heavily on the commission from each vehicle sold. These businesses will need to pivot quickly or risk becoming obsolete in the face of changing times. There's also the challenge of customer adoption. Not everyone is comfortable buying a car online, and GM will need to develop strategies that guide buyers through the process while maintaining trust. Some people still prefer the tactile experience of physically seeing and touching a vehicle before committing to a purchase. GM's success will depend heavily on how they can convince buyers that an online experience can deliver the same level of satisfaction and security that they get from a traditional dealership, and the technological infrastructure will also need to be flawless. If customers are buying cars remotely, they'll expect an easy, intuitive experience. Any glitches in the online process or delays in delivery could cause dissatisfaction and damage GM's reputation. To overcome this, GM will need to ensure their digital platforms are top-notch, with strong customer service and transparent processes that give buyers confidence in their choices. The green future, sustainability, and EV dominance. Despite these challenges, GM's commitment to electric vehicles presents a tremendous opportunity. The push to phase out internal combustion engine vehicles and go all electric by 2035 is not just a strategic move to cater to consumer demand. It's a commitment to sustainability and the future of the planet. The automotive industry is one of the biggest contributors to global carbon emissions, and by transitioning to EVs, GM is positioning itself at the forefront of the green revolution. There's no denying that the electric vehicle market is booming. Countries around the world are implementing stricter emissions regulations, and consumers are becoming more environmentally conscious. For automakers like GM, that means an ever-growing opportunity to capture a larger share of the EV market. And as technology continues to improve, the affordability, range, and performance of EVs will only get better, which will make them even more appealing to consumers. However, GM's green revolution comes with its own set of challenges. A significant investment in charging infrastructure is required, and GM must collaborate with governments, utility companies, and other players in the industry to build out the network of EV charging stations that will be essential for mass adoption. Without this infrastructure, widespread EV adoption could hit a wall, with consumers hesitant to make the leap to electric cars due to concerns over range anxiety and charging accessibility. In addition to the charging network, GM will need to invest heavily in the development of its EV technology. This includes everything from improving battery life and performance to developing new manufacturing techniques. The competition in the EV space is fierce, with companies like Tesla, Rivian, and Ford making significant headway. GM will need to differentiate itself and maintain an innovative edge to stay ahead of the curve. The end of the dealer. What's next for dealerships? While GM is taking significant steps to distance itself from the traditional dealership model, it's important to understand that dealerships won't completely disappear, at least not immediately. There will still be a need for service centers, repair shops, and spaces where customers can come in for vehicle maintenance and support. The future of dealerships, however, could look quite different from what we're used to. In a world where showrooms are no longer the central hub of the car buying experience, dealerships might shift their focus towards service, education, and community engagement. Instead of showcasing rows of cars, dealers could evolve into places that focus on the needs of customer post-purchase. For instance, rather than acting as a traditional sales floor, dealerships could be more like service hubs, offering training, car maintenance, and EV-specific services to help customers better understand and maintain their electric vehicles. This new model could be a boon for the service side of the business, where customers will likely need more specialized knowledge about their electric cars. GM could even move toward establishing a more central hub for service across regions, reducing the number of showrooms but increasing the number of service-only locations that are specialized for electric vehicles. What's clear is that the dealership of the future won't look like the dealership of the past. These new streamlined locations could provide a more personalized, consultative experience for customers, allowing them to learn about vehicles in a more intimate and hands-on manner. The new normal, a unified digital and physical experience. The future of car buying could be a seamless fusion of digital and physical experiences. GM's strategy of moving away from traditional dealerships doesn't mean they're abandoning their customers or the physical presence entirely. Rather, it's about creating a hybrid model that works in the digital age while still acknowledging the importance of physical touchpoints. The buying process may begin entirely online, where customers can choose their vehicle, explore financing options, and even have their vehicle delivered directly to their doorstep. However, they will still have the option of visiting a showroom or service center when they need to. This hybrid approach could make car buying more convenient and accessible while still providing the opportunity for in-person interactions when desired. As GM refines its approach to dealership relationships and electric vehicle offerings, one thing is certain: the future of car buying will look very different. The automaker's bold push towards an all-digital and all-electric world is setting the stage for an industry-wide transformation, one where the lines between physical and digital experience blur. This could very well be the start of a new era in the automotive world, and GM is determined to lead the way.